Hi, it's Sam. In this video we're going to talk about laws, and we're going to watch Shawn McCraney laugh at us from the great and spacious building.
The LDS say in one of their articles of faith, "We believe that all mankind may be saved by obedience to the laws and ordinances of the gospel." Last week, one of our guests, Amy, mentioned a very important biblical concept relative to the law. It comes from James 2:10. Let me read it. "For whoso shall keep the whole law and yet offend in one point, he is guilty of all."
So far, I don't see anything wrong with that.
Next, we have ceremonial law, which under the Old Testament consists of the rites and ceremonies that they used to do in the temples in the children of Israel. These things were done as a picture of Jesus to come. All the ceremonies, all the Levitical ordinances and everything they did were all pictures of the Messiah who was to come. Galatians 2:21 says, "I do not frustrate the grace of God. For if righteousness came by the law, then Christ died in vain."
I think what Shawn is leading up to is he is going to slam the LDS Church for their rights, their ordinances, and so on. And I think he's going to hint that we think we become righteous by doing those ordinances, which we don't think.
So we know from that that righteousness cannot come by the law. One, you can't keep it, but even if you could, then Christ had no purpose in coming. The temple rites, the ceremony, the rituals of the high priests were fulfilled through the righteousness of Jesus, through his life, through his suffering, through his resurrection. Matthew 27:50 says, "Jesus, when he had cried again with a loud voice, yielded up the ghost. And behold, the veil of the temple was rent in twain from the top to the bottom." It was truly finished. It's all completed. The ordinances, the law, the ceremony, the ritual, the rites, it's done. Jesus fulfilled that ceremonial law. Do you see the inanity of trying to follow anything ceremonial to establish your own righteousness or cleanliness? Do you see how ceremonial rules and rites and rituals do not do it any longer? That all they did was point to him who has already come? We are under the covenant of grace, and it is a mockery to try and reinstitute salvation through obedience to laws and ordinances of a gospel.
But what about when Jesus washed the feet of the apostles? We know that was an ordinance attached to an ultimate reward, because Jesus told Peter that if he didn't wash his feet, he wasn't going where Jesus was going. We know also that sacrifice is still essential for an ultimate reward, because Matthew 19:29 promises a reward 100-fold when we sacrifice our time for the Lord. This is in the New Testament, folks and friends.
Hebrews 10:29 says there is a very sore punishment for those who despise the blood and the Spirit of grace of Christ and trample it under their feet. There is a sore punishment for those who try to reestablish this law and ignore the Spirit of grace.
I take that as a hint that we're ignoring the Spirit of grace. I take that as a hint that we are reestablishing a law. We still believe and greatly depend on Jesus' grace. No question about it. We know that no matter how good we are, how many laws we keep or ordinances we do, we would never get to heaven if it weren't for Jesus.
And though the 10 Commandments are perfect and holy, what they truly do is reveal how sinful we are. First, Exodus 20 verse 1, "And God spake all these words, saying." Isn't that beautiful? And God spake all these words, saying. I wonder if God really spake all those words, or if that was translated correctly. I just wonder if it was translated. I mean, should I believe the word of God that said God spake all these words? Or should I believe men who said we can't trust the word of God? I think I'll believe God, that God spoke all these words.
Shawn, give me a break. Never mind. Too late.
I mean, it drives me nuts when we get so dogmatic that we say it is epissimus verba, word perfect in our hands, King James only, shut up with anything else, this is it. Because it's not. There are a couple issues. So I wish we would just take that step and step away from this perfectness and admit that the Bible was written to a people at a time and it was perfect. And we have no way of really even proving how perfect it was. We have none of those manuscripts. And we can't tell people that there's absolutely no contradictions in the book. And we can't tell them it's perfect. That's not true. Not true. Not true.